I think here in this last chapter we have a change. I think this is like a big change in how Asta is portrayed as a character and a protagonist, as this is the first time where we see Asta himself being capable of Hello, and thank you for tuning in for my review of the latest chapters of Black Clover. So, the last chapters resolving around the fight, the climax of the fight against Lucifero, the king of the devils, has been a lot of back and forth without the protagonists making a real progress. And there has been some dynamic between Yami and Nacht, trying to coordinate their attacks along with Asta and Yuno to land a strike on Lucifero. And it was interesting to see that combination turned out not to be the best one, as Asta's anti-magic seemed to have created some kind of field or some interference with at least Yami's ability and Nacht's ability. And Yami not being capable of injuring Lucifero still. Maybe fatigue, maybe other reasons. And it was interesting. It seemed like Yuno, who was throughout all of Black Clover, was portrayed as that faithful, unwavering rival of Asta. Yes, a rival, but also Asta's strongest believer. That Yuno would seemingly put his face into Yami. Put his face into Yami being the one to be able to strike down Lucifero, which turned out not to be the case. And we only got, even through an amazing effort with their attack mirrored, we only got to see Lucifero stabbing those two characters, Nacht and Yami, with his newly grown additional two arms. Kind of surprising how Lucifero is able to pull out that many additional abilities on top of his innate physical strength and his gravitation magic. So it seems Lucifero and possibly other high-ranking devils might have other abilities along their magic abilities that just go along being a devil, possibly. And at this point we've seen Asta kind of awakening to the memories of Liebe. And even through, it seems, their devil union time about to run out, that they could go up a notch higher and increase their output and actually keep up with Lucifero. block his attacks, grab his fists, and cut off his arms. And yeah, that's not such a surprise. Actually, the biggest issue for Asta fighting Lucifero in the fight thus far had been him not being able to land a strike. He was clearly able to cut off Lucifero's horn and injure him, but what was missing was Asta landing a clear, significant strike on Lucifero. And especially in the last 2 chapters, Asta showed what that means. That it was devastating to Lucifero. And we can assume that Asta, through the use of his anti-magic, that whatever he cuts off from a devil, whatever part he injures, probably stays cut, stays injured, and becomes a lasting injury. Not something that the devils can easily regenerate. So it's not a surprise that it was in the end Asta who delivered the final blow, who took on the key role in taking down Lucifero. But I think here in this last chapter we have a change. I think this is like a big change in how Asta is portrayed as a character and a protagonist, as this is the first time where we see Asta himself being capable of not just keeping up, but taking down the main antagonist, the main adversary of the current arc, without him being put into position, being guided and heavily supported by all the characters around him. It was not like in his fight with Zagret. It was not like in his fight with this one beast guy from the elves. It was not like his previous fights against smaller and bigger adversaries, where it was always his teammates or Yuno or Yami that helped kick Asta out of the way last minute, out of the way of incoming attacks, or Vanessa moving her threat magic to move Asta out of harm like a puppet, or have Asta be teleported into safety by space magic or through Yuno's star magic. This was the first time, if I think about it, this was the first time, the very first time that Asta stood on his own 2 feet without any assistance, and with him being absolutely capable of taking down the enemy. And let's go over how he seemed to get there. So it seems like Liebe's memories flowed into Asta, kind of awakening further drive, further motivation in Asta. And there's not much elaboration, so we don't know if this is like a deepened or evolved devil union, a perfect devil union, as hinted by Nacht in one comment, or if it's simply based on the power of emotion. But more important, I think, Asta and Liebe seem to mirror each other in a lot of ways, and I think this might just be a repeating pattern in Black Clover, that the mangaka Tabata likes to portray certain characters as two sides of a coin, as characters that mirror each other in their progression, in their character and their development, in their abilities, like Yami and Nacht. Also Asta and Liebe. But they just seem so similar, even visually so similar, that this leads me to the following theory regarding Asta and Liebe, and why Asta seems to be so special, why Asta seems to have no magic. And that's serious, that Asta and Liebe are such a perfect match because they are one. They were one. And they were meant to be one again. What I mean by that, I theorize that Asta and Liebe had been the same person at one point, and through some unexplained means or event had been separated. And I think this connects with theories that are more or less prevalent in the community due to Asta's name being Asta, which sounds a lot like a short version of Astaros, which is a biblical devil, along with other named devils like Beelzebub or Lucifer, Satan, and that Asta himself is either a devil, a full devil, or half devil, and that his full name is Astaros, or that he is a descendant of a devil named Astaros, or maybe not necessarily either, but that he has some connection to a devil, some blood connection, as Asta is clearly physically stronger, physically above the normal human, but he's just born without mana, which is an absolute anomaly. So in the world of Black Clover, Asta is at current a one in a lifetime, once in everyone anomaly. So, and anti-magic, which is derived from Liebe, just seems to be too strong and too omnipotent against any other magic. It just seems too overpowered, and those two just seem way too much of a perfect match for it to be a coincidence. Also very interesting, we still have not seen the level 2 Qliphoth-Devil Adramelech, if I remember his name correctly, has not intervened, has not participated in any way whatsoever since his appearance, leading me to the conclusion that that devil might not be really interested in fighting humans. Possibly, and this has been a theory in the past of mine, allying with humans, siding with the humans. But I expected him to take more of an active part in defeating Lucifero, something that, as it seems, is no longer necessary, as that was probably Asta's last attack, that was probably the final strike, that was the strikes that probably defeated Lucifero, or so I assume. Does that mean that Lucifero is gone forever? All eternity? He's gone for good? I don't think so. Lucifero had only been partially manifested. And I think it would be a bit soon to assume that the strongest devil is already out of the picture without us readers having been revealed the other Qliphoth-Devils 3, 4, 5 and up. So I expect Lucifero to return, but I expect him to be the current Lucifero. We see the partial manifestation of him to be eradicated for now. So the next chapter will probably be a conclusion of that. Pick up where this week's chapter left. And we'll probably get a bit more on the stance of the level 2 Qliphoth-Devil Adramelech. And we'll see what his role will be, what his further role in the story of Black Clover will be. Whether he will be hostile after Lucifero has gone down, seizing the opportunity to take down the exhausted heroes, or to actually be peaceful and offer an alliance. We'll see. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed my video, and see you again. Bye.